Hi guys, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Izzati binti Rubani from Group F4 AS120219 and I have a student ID of 2020808834 and for today's presentation I will present to you guys about aerobic respiration and fermentation for my case study in biology subject. Before we go through for the question in my case study, let's we know first about the cellular respiration. Okay, let me explain. Cellular respiration is the set of metabolic reactions and processes that take place in the cells of organisms to convert chemical energy from oxygen molecules or nutrients into adenosine triphosphate or we call as ATP and then release waste products means by that reaction there is reaction that occur in our cell and the reaction will convert what we eat or what we do it will convert from oxygen molecule into ATP we know as energy, so the energy we can use to do work in daily activities means that our cell work something in our body to make sure it work well for our daily activities. As general, we know that there are two types of cellular respiration, which is aerobic respiration and also anaerobic respiration, right? Okay, the simple thing that we can remember about these two types of cellular respiration is that aerobic respiration is respiration that there is presence of oxygen, but an aerobic respiration is a respiration that occur with the absence of oxygen. So we need to bear in mind about that two things. Okay, about these two things, which is aerobic respiration and anaerobic. Aerobic presence of oxygen, while anaerobic is absence of oxygen. Okay, let's we go through one by one. Okay, aerobic respiration is a chemical reaction that transfers energy to cell. The waste products of aerobic respiration are carbon dioxide and water. Okay, from this I can conclude or I can summarize the equation of aerobic respiration is glucose plus oxygen will become carbon dioxide plus water and also will have ATP. Because there is presence of oxygen, there is a lot of ATP will produce, and there is three stages that we need to know from that. There are three stages of aerobic respiration, which is glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation, or we can also known as electron transport chain. Okay, I write here electron transport chain, or we can also call as ETC. Okay, ETC. And in this area, there is also have chemiosmosis. Next, I will explain about the another type of cellular respiration, which is an aerobic respiration. An aerobic respiration is a glucose breaks down without oxygen. I said earlier, anaerobic is absence of oxygen, and aerobic respiration is a presence of oxygen. So, in anaerobic respiration is without oxygen. Okay, the chemical reaction transfers energy from glucose to the cell. It produces lactic acid rather than carbon dioxide and water because I will give the reason after that, which is in the next slide. And I read it again. It is absence of oxygen and fermentation is one of the anaerobic respiration. There are three types of fermentation, which is lactic acid fermentation, alcohol fermentation, or we can know that as ethanol fermentation, and also acetic acid fermentation. For this video, I will explain or I will give the byproducts for two fermentation, which is lactic acid fermentation and also alcohol fermentation. For lactic acid fermentation equation is glucose will produce 2 lactic acid. But for alcohol fermentation, which is ethanol fermentation, the equation is glucose will become to ethanol, and also to carbon dioxide. I think that's all for the introduction about my topics. Next, I will go for the session where there is questions and explanation based on my case study report. Go. Okay, the first question that I have received for my case study report is the summary of equation. Talk about summary, let's redo the equation. So make it short, right? So the equation for the aerobic respiration is the glucose plus oxygen will become carbon dioxide plus water and also ATP. Okay, where come the glucose, everyone? This come from the what we eat because glucose is something that we call as sugar, right? So we will eat sugar from the rice and it act as glucose. And oxygen is what? Oxygen is something that we breathe in. Okay, we inhale and we exhale the carbon dioxide. We inhale oxygen. This is oxygen come from. And then we will going out the carbon dioxide, which is something that we exhale, and also we will produce water, which is something that we make it as a sweat, which is when we are exercising, we are sweating, and the water we add as a waste product. And lastly, the ATP. ATP is the energy that produced during the cellular respiration of aerobic respiration occur. Okay, the breakdown of glucose will produce energy. Yeah, we know that when the glucose is breakdown, it's called as something that produce energy for our body. So when we eat rice, we'll break down the glucose and we will get enough energy to do the daily activities. When combined with oxygen, it will produce carbon dioxide, water, and ATP. ATP can be used to make cell function well and make me with life until today. Every single thing that move in our body need ATP, such as the muscle contraction. Even when we are chewing something, we need ATP. Even in this part, all part of our body need ATP to do something that call as work. Next, I will go for the first stage of aerobic respiration is which is glycolysis. Glycolysis is place where anaerobic and aerobic respiration can occur, and it take place in cytoplasm. Process where one glucose molecule is broken down to form two molecules of pyruvate, or also known as pyruvate acid. This will produce two ATP only. Before enter the Krebs cycle, there is link reaction, which is the process occur, which is pyruvate converted to acetyl CoA and connected between the glycolysis and the Krebs cycles. Next, we go to the Krebs cycle, which is there is 8 steps that will involve. Energy that's stored in pyruvate is transferred to NADH and also FADH2, and transfer is some ATP will produce. Along that process, there will ATP will produce. The main function of Krebs cycle to be happen is to produce electron carriers that can be used during electron transport chain. Okay, it will produce 1 ATP per cycle. Means that if we need 2 ATP, we need to do 2 cycle. 2 cycle of Krebs cycle will produce 6 NADH, 2 FADH2, 4 CO2, and also 2 ATP. Next, we go to the electron transport chain. Electron transport chain have a majority of ATP in aerobic respiration are generated. Oxidative phosphorylation is a process that ATP form as a result of transfer of electron from NADH or FADH2 to O2 by a series of electron carrier. Firstly is electron transport chain. In this electron carried by NADH and FADH2 are being transferred along 9 series of carriers until being donated to O2, which is there is very long chain. Okay, the chemiosmosis is involved in with the process of pumping electron through the special channel in the membranes of mitochondria from inner part to the outer part. Oxidative phosphorylation can produce about 30 to 32 ATP. So sometimes we prefer 32 ATP. There are major difference between aerobic respiration and fermentation. As we can know, the end product of aerobic respiration will exactly not the same as fermentation, right? And also the type of processes that occur, which is such as metabolism and catabolism, is different between two of that, which is aerobic respiration and also fermentation. For the next question is the significance of NAD plus in fermentation and cell respiration. What I get is NAD plus helps in converting food become energy. The second thing is to make sure the functioning of defensive genes to protect human from being aging and also avoid diseases. As we can look sometimes, older people with will have Alzheimer diseases because the NAD plus in our body will become low as we are getting older and aging. Okay, next, it acts as an electron carrier that will take up the electrons during the cell respiration occur. Next question is about the reasons organisms undergo fermentation in the absence of oxygen. I research is on the Khan Academy, which is it told that aerobic respiration require oxygen and anaerobic not the presence of oxygen. So that fermentation will occur in anaerobic respiration because it want to maintain the ATP production by having glycolysis, because glycolysis can occur aerobic respiration and also anaerobic, but not Krebs cycles and also electron transport chain. From this study case, I can make a conclusion that cellular respiration is a process of converting food into energy. Aerobic respiration will produce more ATP than fermentation, which is anaerobic respiration, because as we can see, aerobic respiration involve electron transport chain and also oxidative phosphorylation, which is the most contributors of ATP production. So it will produce more ATP than the fermentation that only occur in the glycolysis, which is only produced to ATP. Next, the aerobic respiration with the presence of oxygen and fermentation with the absence of oxygen. Okay, I think that's all from me for this case study video. I hope you understand and really enjoy this video. Okay, thank you.